You're watching News 24 Live. New SA license regulations which came into effect this week have really been causing a stink amongst vehicle owners. They require vehicle owners to provide proof of residence when renewing their vehicle license. Spokesperson for the Transport MEC in the Western Cape, Sihle Dube, is in studio with us to give us a better idea of what exactly these regulations mean.
Well, we've continually, all licensing authorities continue to have problems with up-to-date information for vehicle owners and all those contracting with or contacting the eNaTIS system. So these regulations were envisaged a while ago. They were promulgated a year ago to come into effect now. There was an open participation process around them, and basically it was to ensure that we as licensing authorities can work better to access all motorists that have vehicles registered with the system and all other people that have to contact the eNaTIS system for whatever need.
I mean, we all know that license discs have a huge renewal date on them. Won't that suffice?
Yeah, it doesn't suffice. We find that it doesn't suffice, and there's been complaints about penalties incurred when people don't receive these kinds of notifications. But it's basically to help us streamline the processes and the way in which we interact and communicate better with all vehicle owners, particularly fleet owners as well that have more than one vehicle, to keep them informed and to have updated information relating to where they live and how to contact them.
Now, there's been speculation that it's to track down outstanding e-toll fees. Can you comment on that?
That can only apply to Gauteng, so we do not. I would not need to comment on that. That's here in the Western Cape. We don't have e-tolls, so that would probably apply to Gauteng if that is even the case.
Now, so basically, obviously, like I mentioned in my intro, there's been it's caused a huge stink with a lot of vehicle owners who have written into Wheels 24 with various complaints, which we shared with you, and hoping that you could shed some light on them. Obviously, the majority of them coming from people who live abroad or don't live in a specific certain city where their vehicle is usually registered and are unable to provide proof of address. I mean, first of all, how strict are these regulations? What sort of flexibility is given, and how do these people provide proof of address? So, for example, there's this person who lives in Singapore, their mother renews their license on his or her trailer. Will foreign proof of residence be accepted?
Well, what that person would have to do, and so anyone living in a foreign country would have to identify their mother or whoever it is that is going to be renewing on their behalf, then with some kind of form of letter to show that they do actually in fact live abroad, and then that person that would be doing the renewal would have to register their details as well. So they'd have to provide the proof of where they stay, and together with the documentation that indicates that the person in which they are renewing on their behalf is not in the country. So the regulations are quite rigid, and I suppose, but we're not out to not accommodate anyone. We've been working very hard to ensure that anyone that would have a legitimate complaint or a grievance or some kind of hindrance that would stop them from renewing their license fees is accommodated if they contact the licensing authorities.
Now, you mentioned sort of family names, etc. Another reader raises an interesting point. When you're in a relationship and bills on her husband's name, then the couple part. Obviously, that becomes an issue. Owning a property where the rates bills go to the lodgers, the property is managed by a trust fund, you know, all these kind of little idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, this is all information that you would just simply have to provide to a licensing authority. Divorce creeds will explain or will break down what the relationship will be in terms of the property that is owned, whether it's vehicles or otherwise. So that information would already be available. It would just simply be a case of you providing that information to verify your details and whether or not when you're applying for renewal.
Another reader travels a lot within South Africa, uses her parents' home address as their postal address, because obviously our postal services hasn't been the most reliable in the last year or so, but has a car parked in Cape Town. What do they do?
Same thing, wherever the car is, if you have an address that is your preferred address, and there's someone there that would contract on your behalf, then you'd simply have to show that information that where you live and where your vehicle is registered is not the same place, and then that person that would be renewing on your behalf in the area where the vehicle is or was currently registered would just have to provide the same information, confirming where they live by virtue of utility bills or any accounts.
Now, what other kind of issues have you come across this week?
Well, not many. As I said, the licensing authorities are municipal, so they've yet to come back with a whole list of feedback as to how the initial rollout has occurred. What we had done prior to the 1st of November was to issue notices to all the licensing authorities across the Western Cape, informing them of this change and how best to accommodate the citizens that would be needing to interact with them to renew their vehicles. We've done our best to ensure that the process is smooth, and we don't expect that this process, should you provide the correct documentation, should take long at all.
Now, it doesn't only, it's important to note, it doesn't only apply to vehicle license registration,
Yes,
but
and
also
also
learner's licenses,
Yes.
driver's license renewals, etc.
Yes, basically any activity that would require you to interact with the licensing authority to ensure that your details captured on the e-NATA system are as up to date as possible.
So on that note, what about youngsters who aren't sort of legal age yet, don't have proof of residence, don't have utility bills, etc.?
Yeah, well, a simple affidavit would fix that, to say that to indicate who you are living with, and that person is the one that has the utility bills, and then you can provide that information along with the affidavit and the required information to the licensing authority, and they would be able to assist you.
Okay. It does sound like a lot of paperwork or red tape. Is there
It seems that way, but ultimately what you want to
any
do
way
is
you guys are planning to streamline this or digitize it or just make it?
not as yet. Each licensing authority would have to look into that. I know the City of Cape Town currently is trying to expand the access, so they have the service rolling out at Mitchell's Plain Mall, so you can go about your daily life, and they're open during the mall hours, so it doesn't need to impede with your daily activity. So they're looking at rolling it out to various areas in that way, and then obviously looking at ways to digitize a little better. So I'm very cautious about this term red tape. I don't think it's red tape at all, but ultimately the gains is to ensure that your information that we have is up to date, so we can contact you properly when need to.
Okay, thanks very much.